Let's continue on with the show. This next question, Jim, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from B. Barry. Hello,
B.
Jim.
Barry?
B. Barry. I'm listening to the Vince McMahon Omnibus again. And you mentioned the flight in which Vince is upset because he wants to get back to the office and get an extra half day of work. My question is, what work is getting done every day in these offices? When you were there, obviously. Is Vince in his office writing down ideas all day? Making a list of new names for wrestlers? Writing a list of words he hates? What exactly is happening there that couldn't be done remotely? Do people just spin around in their chairs awaiting Vince's beckoning call? It sounds like theirs and oh, I don't know what his last sentence was supposed to be, but it went off the rails, so I'll just give up. What is Vince doing all day? What is this hard work that he does more than everyone else?
Well, in all honesty, it's not he's just sitting down, oh, I've got an idea for Raw next week. He's taking fucking phone calls from the network. He's taking phone calls from the pay-per-view people. He's giving orders to different departments to do all kinds of shit I can't even fucking enumerate here verbally, but he really did run the company, and everybody either needed to be on standby in case he needed to ask him a question. Vince would spend an inordinate amount of the time of the day, if he would hear something, he'd say, get me so-and-so at the office. And they'd have to be there to answer the phone, and he'd ask them one question, and that would lead him to call somebody else. Let's call creative services. Let's get on that. But, I mean, he was fielding paperwork and contract updates, and it was still even 25 years ago, it was a big company with a couple of hundred employees, and it wasn't just the wrestling operation that Vince was concentrating on. He had all of us around to do that, but it was everything else. And working remotely, remember this is 1997, they had email, which I don't know that Vince completely trusted at that point because it was new.
Right.
I sent one email the whole time I worked in that office. I still had a typewriter and I made copies and fucking gave people memos on paper. There were cell phones. I still had a beeper at that point in case there was an emergency at home. So you didn't just work remotely then like you do now. If you weren't near a landline phone, you couldn't get goddamn, Bonnie Hammer from USA Network on immediately. And that's what he was doing. He was constantly fielding calls, signing papers, having meetings about anything from marketing to merchandising to open up new markets, etc., and running the whole freaking show. So yes, and there was all, if you wanted, now Vince, he may not necessarily have had to do everything he did. He could have had some other people do it, or it might not have all, but it was all important to him. And he was not only doing it from the time he'd get up back then in the old days. Now I guess he does his workouts at 3:00 in the morning. Back then, he was up at 5 or 6 or whatever before dawn and worked out in his home gym. And by the time we got there at 9:00 on a writing day on Wednesday, he'd already finished his breakfast and his workout. And he's ready to work. And if we got out of there at 6:00 that night, we considered ourselves lucky. Sometimes it was 7 or 8. Bruce Pritchard told me in the days of him and Pat, it used to be 10 and 11. And then whoever his victims were would leave the house, and then he'd get back on the phone, Vince, and start doing more shit. So it's, it just, the method of electronic transmission has changed and, modernized over the years, but Vince, there's always something that he can find to be busy. The work is never done, whether it's something he has to do, something he just wants to do, or something he feels like he should do that somebody else could do.
And the other thing is, it's all he wants to do. He doesn't want to go sit down and watch TV or anything.
No. So, that's not any big shock, but that's what it was. It wasn't just, oh gosh, we got to work on Seg 7 for Raw Monday. It was, I'm going to open up fucking Brazil